Okay, so good afternoon, and today we're going to talk about cold weather. What effect does that have? And vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. Those are things that we need to understand. Okay, so what's the effect of cold weather on viruses and this pandemic? What could it be? Well, there was a study done back in 2007 that demonstrated that decreases in temperature and decreases in humidity definitely made the influenza virus worse. We can extrapolate that now that with the cold, with it being colder and the humidity being lower and people being inside more is a factor that we have to take into consideration when we talk about worsening of the COVID-19 as well as influenza and the common cold. In the winter, people tend to have runny, our noses will run. And sometimes that's just a fact of it being cold, and people may have a little bit of allergy, or it could be a person has an infection from one of these viruses. Nevertheless, let's keep in mind when our noses run that we should blow our nose and take all the precautions. Blow our nose with tissue, wash our hands, wash any surface that our hands are on, and just kind of try to keep those things in mind. Another study showed that when the temperature decreases, that rhinovirus, which is responsible for almost 90% of the common cold, and also coronavirus, a different coronavirus, a study showed that rhinovirus replicates, multiplies much more aggressively when temperatures are lower. So all this information about cold weather really does have an effect on how many people can be infected by the virus. The humidity, the low temperature, the people are more enclosed inside. The study showed that there's more replication of the virus when the temperatures are lower. And so we have to take those things into consideration. Okay, so let's talk about vitamin D. Okay, let me give you an analogy. When the virus comes into the lung, it's like a group of soldiers coming in with guns. And these bullets that they are shooting are known as these cytokines. We've heard those mentioned in the news. And the cytokines are what tears the lung apart. When there's no vitamin D or you're vitamin D deficient, the cytokines just keep coming and coming and coming, and you get this cytokine storm. It's an inflammatory response that occurs in the lung. Inflammation, it runs rampant, and the person ends up getting short of breath, etc. If vitamin D is around, it will decrease, offset the cytokine storm that occurs in the lung, and it can offset and temper the cytokine. So that's why we kind of need, it's been shown in studies that that's why we need the vitamin D to decrease these cytokines from taking over the lung. So vitamin D also, there's some other really good things that vitamin D brings on. It's good for bone and muscle. It helps hold calcium in the bone. And also vitamin D is a real big player in the respiratory immune response. And so it's been shown through various studies that when you have adequate vitamin D levels, your immune system and your ability to handle viruses is much better. It's very important that you go to your doctor, check your vitamin D levels, and talk to your doctor about what would be the appropriate dosage of vitamin D. Vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and so you want to make sure that you're not overdosing or overdoing this vitamin D. For the best vitamin D supplements, there is the consumerlab.com, and this is an independent consumer report. I have no link to it, and they pretty much try to give the best information regarding vitamins and herbs. So let's talk about vitamin C. Vitamin C has been shown, there's a study that showed that vitamin C is very helpful in terms of immunity against viruses, cold viruses in the wintertime. Now, the thing about vitamin C is that you have to be very careful about how much you take, because it can irritate the stomach, and experts around the world have talked about taking small doses of vitamin C throughout the day, because it is a water-soluble vitamin, and so only so much of the vitamin C can be absorbed, and if you take too much at once, then the rest is going to be excreted out. There's also been studies where they've used vitamin C IV to treat patients that have been in the hospital with COVID-19. And there's been no end results of these studies, but there has been good evidence that this IV vitamin C that have been given to COVID-19 patients is pretty good. That's different from the oral dose. So when we talk about high doses of IV vitamin C given that's showing some promising results, I don't want to give the impression that go out and take high doses, very high doses of vitamin C orally, because again, you're only going to absorb so much of the vitamin C, and the rest is going to be water soluble, and so it's going to be excreted out. And so we need to understand that. There are some natural sources of vitamin C. You would be surprised, such as an orange. One orange will give you like 71 milligrams of vitamin C. A green bell pepper has 300 milligrams of vitamin C. It may not be necessary to take a supplement if you're eating the proper foods that have these amounts of vitamin C that you need. Zinc, popular suggestion, and I know a lot of people don't really have a lot of information about zinc, but zinc is really, really important. One of the main things that zinc does is it cuts down on the replication of the virus in the cell. That would be good. That sounds good if we can cut down on the replication, because we know that from previous videos that the virus moves into the cell and kind of hijacks the cell. And so if we have a vitamin that decreases the replication of the virus, that's pretty good. There's two kinds of zinc. There's zinc gluconate and there's zinc acetate. And so when you buy the zinc, you want to get the zinc gluconate. That's the one that really works really well in the cell in terms of decreasing the replication of the virus. Okay, now with zinc, one of the things that you have to keep in mind is the zinc has to get inside the cell. The things that can help the zinc to get inside the cell to help offset these complications of the virus are they're called polyphenols, and those are the colorings on the vegetables and the fruits. And so if you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables along with taking the zinc, then you're allowing the zinc a way to get into the cell. And so one of the things I would say that if you have a horrible diet and you're taking the zinc, you're not going to get the maximum benefit from that zinc. But if you're eating fruits and vegetables, and we know those polyphenols, which give coloring to the vegetables and the fruit, will help that zinc get into the cell where it can cut down on the virus's replication process. So we want to remember that we got to eat healthy, drink plenty of fluids, and get a lot of rest if we want even if we want the vitamins and the zinc to work well. There was another study that showed some pretty impressive things about zinc. One of the things we've already talked about is that it stops the replication of the virus in the cell. It also increases the immune response of our bodies. It also acts as a cofactor in chemical reactions. Okay, so it facilitates these chemical reactions in our body. It also proliferates fighter cells in the body, in the respiratory immune system. The last thing I'll say about this zinc is you don't want to take too much, because it can cause stomach upset. It can irritate the lining of the stomach. So most people, from the things I've read, say take about 20 to 30 milligrams a day. Make sure you take that with some food. And also, again, I want to emphasize the polyphenols, which are just the colorings that are on the vegetables and fruits that will help the zinc get inside the cell and stop the replication of the virus. I know this has been a lot of information, and I want to continue to get good information to you to help you through this pandemic that we're going through. I want to say to continue to wear your mask, continue to keep social distancing, and also keep sanitizing, washing our hands, and get proper rest, eat good food, and we'll be okay. If you found this information useful, hit the like button and become a subscriber. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.